The replay changed everything. Not the play itself. Not the moment it happened, when the stadium was still processing what it had just seen and the crowd noise was somewhere between confusion and outrage and the kind of collective disbelief that only arrives when something occurs on a baseball field that has no business occurring on a baseball field. The replay. Because when the footage came back, when the cameras found the angle that the live broadcast had missed, when the image slowed down frame by frame until every detail was visible and undeniable, the room that was already loud became something else entirely. And at the center of that image was Shohei Ohtani. And what the Rays starting pitcher had just done to him. The game between the Dodgers and the Tampa Bay Rays was supposed to be about baseball. It was supposed to be about two organizations testing themselves against each other in the early part of a season where every series carries weight and every game is a data point that the standings will remember in October. It was supposed to be about the Dodgers' newly restructured roster finding its rhythm. About Tommy Edman's return adding a dimension to the lineup that had been missing. About the left-handed ace settling into his new environment. About Dave Roberts managing all the moving pieces of a team that has absorbed more change in the past week than most teams process in a month. It was supposed to be a baseball game. And for a while, it was. Until the Rays starting pitcher threw that pitch. Let's be precise about what happened. Because precision matters when a play becomes the kind of play that gets reviewed, debated, and ultimately punished at the highest level of the sport. Ohtani was at the plate. The count had developed the way counts do when two elite competitors are taking each other seriously, carefully, with intention, neither side willing to give the other anything clean to work with. The Rays pitcher had been sharp. Commanding his fastball to both sides of the plate. Mixing his secondary pitches with the timing variation that separates good pitchers from difficult ones. And then the pitch came. High. Inside. With a velocity and a trajectory that left almost no time for reaction. Ohtani moved. He has the kind of physical instincts that operate faster than conscious thought, the product of tens of thousands of repetitions, of years of training the body to respond before the mind has finished processing the danger. He moved. But not fast enough. The ball made contact. And the way it made contact, the angle, the location, the specific manner in which a professional pitcher at full velocity directed a baseball at the most important player in the opposing lineup, was not something that could be explained by accident once the replay came back. The stadium knew it immediately. The umpires knew it immediately. What happened next was something that nobody in that ballpark had seen before. The home plate umpire moved faster than umpires move. That is not a small detail. Umpires are trained to manage the temperature of a game. To de-escalate. To insert themselves into volatile moments with the specific authority of someone whose job it is to make sure that what just happened does not become something worse. They move deliberately. They move with the weight of institutional control behind every step. This umpire did not move deliberately. He moved with urgency. Toward the mound. And what followed, captured in full by the replay footage that is now circulating everywhere, was not a warning. Was not a calm conversation at the pitcher's rubber about the rules of engagement. Was not the standard protocol that gets applied when a hit-by-pitch crosses the line from competitive to dangerous. The umpire grabbed the pitcher's jersey. The image of that, a major league umpire, in the middle of a game being broadcast to millions of people, physically grabbing the uniform of a starting pitcher and pulling him forward with the kind of force that nobody in a professional baseball setting uses unless the moment has gone somewhere that standard tools cannot reach, stopped the stadium cold. For a moment, the entire ballpark was silent. Then it wasn't. The punishment came swiftly. And severely. The details of what the league office determined, the review of the footage, the statements collected from both benches, the assessment of intent that separates an aggressive inside pitch from something that crosses into deliberate endangerment, produced a result that made clear this was not being treated as a routine ejection situation. This was being treated as something that required a message. The Rays starting pitcher was removed from the game immediately. That was the visible part. The part that the crowd saw, that the broadcast captured, that the scoreboard registered in the most literal sense. The punishment beyond that, the suspension, the formal discipline, the organizational consequences that follow a player when he returns to his team after something like this, went further than anything the Rays expected to be managing on a night that began as a standard series game. The Dodgers GM was in the building. He watched all of it. And he did not stay quiet. The press conference that followed was not scheduled. That is important context. This was not a post-game media availability that had been on the calendar for days. This was a GM who decided, in real time, while the game was still being completed, that waiting until the standard press conference window was not acceptable. That what had happened required a public response before the night was over. He walked in with the specific energy of someone who has already moved past the emotional reaction and arrived at the part where consequences get determined. He sat down. He did not reach for water. He did not look at notes. He looked directly at the cameras. What happened tonight, he said, is not part of this game. It has never been part of this game. And I want to be absolutely clear about what this organization expects to happen next. He paused. Not for effect. Because the next words required the kind of deliberateness that cannot be rushed. We protect our players. Every one of them. And when someone on another team makes a decision that puts one of our players in danger, whether the intent can be proven or not, we respond. Formally. Completely. Without any ambiguity about where we stand. The room was still. A reporter asked whether the Dodgers would be pursuing additional action beyond what the league had already announced. The GM's expression did not change. Every option available to us is on the table. Every single one. In the Dodgers dugout, while the GM was finding his way to the press conference room, something was happening that the cameras caught but that took the replay footage to fully understand. Ohtani had returned to the dugout after the play. After the umpire's intervention. After the stadium noise had reached its peak and the confusion on the field had begun to settle into the formal process of removal and punishment. He walked into the dugout. And what he did, the specific, deliberate series of actions that the replay footage captured in the moments after he crossed that threshold, was not what anyone expected from a player who had just been on the receiving end of what the entire stadium had watched. He did not sit down immediately. He stood at the top of the steps for a moment. Long enough that several teammates near him stopped what they were doing and looked. He was not angry. That was the first thing people noticed. Not in the visible, immediate way that adrenaline produces in a player who has just been hit. The expression on his face was something harder to name. Calmer than anger. More focused than relief. He said something. To nobody in particular. In Japanese, quietly, in the way he speaks when the words are for himself more than for anyone else. Then he picked up his batting helmet. Set it down with a precision that felt intentional. Sat down. And looked back out at the field. Like he was already thinking about his next at-bat. Like what had just happened was information he had already filed and moved past. The teammates who saw it described the moment afterward with the same word, independently, without coordinating their answers. Unsettling. Not because it was dark. Not because it suggested something wrong. But because it revealed something about Ohtani that even the people who share a clubhouse with him every day do not fully have access to. A capacity for internal processing that operates at a speed and a depth that most people, most elite athletes, simply do not possess. He was already somewhere else. He was already ahead. Dave Roberts had been in the dugout for all of it. He had watched the pitch. Had watched the umpire move. Had watched the removal. Had watched Ohtani walk back in and do what Ohtani did. And when a reporter found him near the clubhouse entrance after the game and asked what he had said to Ohtani in the dugout in the moments after it happened, Roberts stopped walking. He turned around slowly. I started to say something, Roberts said. I walked over to him. I had something in mind. He stopped there. Like the memory of the moment was reorganizing itself as he described it. And he looked at me. And whatever I was about to say, I stopped. The reporter waited. I just said, "We've got you." That's it. Because anything else felt like it was for me, not for him. Roberts paused one more time. He nodded. And then he was watching the field again. Somewhere behind them, through the clubhouse doors, voices were audible. The normal sounds of a team processing a win in the aftermath of something that was larger than the win itself. Equipment sounds. Conversations. The ordinary rhythm of a group of people returning to themselves after an extraordinary moment. And then a shout cut through all of it. Robert's voice. Directed back into the room towards something that was escalating in the way that things escalate when tension has been building for hours and the release valve finally opens. Stop it. 2 words. Loud enough to carry. Firm enough to land. The voices inside went quiet. Roberts turned back to the reporter. His expression was steady again. Back to the calm that defines him. Back to the manager who doesn't make shocking announcements. Most days. "We're good," he said simply. And walked back through the door.